So when I was in high school, I was well into 80s metal. I remember first hearing Van Halen in someone's car and thinking, yeah, this is where it's at, you know. After about 2 years of Van Halen, I finally stumbled across White Lion on YouTube. This is actually the first song I ever heard of theirs. And I remember thinking at the start of the song, you know, this is kind of so-so, but then once the guitars really started to kick in, I was like, yeah, this is way more like it. This is a power ballad right here. And then once I got to the guitar solo, I was like, whoa, this is a real guitar solo. After high school, I went on to study music at university, and 80s metal started to kind of fall to the wayside. But recently, I started to revisit some of these White Lion songs, and I was just absolutely blown away by the intricate chord progressions and how carefully arranged these were for the instruments. In this video, I'm going to go through the song, because a lot of focus on White Lion's music is put on Vito Bratta's guitar solos, whereas he said it himself, like he's really disappointed the lack of attention which the songs are actually getting, and they truly are really masterfully created. There is tons of classical music theory through all of this. So we're about to go full Titanic into White Lion's weight. Weight starts off with an acoustic guitar and a very classical style turnaround progression from D back to A, which moves through the chords D to A, to C to G, to B flat, and then to A. This whole time the progression is underpinned by an A pedal tone. The A note is the fifth of D and the root of A, so you've got this like 5-1 kind of motion which is sort of underlying across the whole progression. The whole verse progression is basically A to A7, which is the applied dominant of the next chord, which is D. Then it goes to a D minor, which is like the minor 4 chord of A. So they borrowed that chord from A minor. Towards the end of the acoustic guitar section, Vito Bratta moves the chords up the octave. So he does this to increase anticipation for the distorted guitars, so once those come in, you're really amped up for it. If we look at these chords as well, what is effectively happening is they're extending the 1 chord. Often in classical music, they use the 4 chord. If you've got a long period of your 1 chord, they use the 4 chord to create a little bit of movement. So what they've done here really is create motion where there isn't really very much motion. Once the distorted guitars come in, it's really interesting the chord voicings which they use. This actually occurs a lot in 80s metal, but this was pioneered really by Van Halen, as he was talking about. As the amps became higher and higher gain, you can't really use like jazz voicings in guitar because with all that distortion it just sounds muddled. So you really need to pick out specifically what notes that you want to use, and you can't use too many notes, otherwise it just becomes a wash of noise. So Vito Bratta has done this in the intro riff, where not very many of the notes are doubled and there are only like at max 3 notes at a time sounding on the guitar. Creates a very sparse sound and really effectively articulates the harmony. Another really interesting aspect of this progression is the bass. So it starts on the A, but then it moves to the 7th of the A7, so it's actually playing a G, and then it moves to the 3rd of the D chord, so that's an F sharp, and then it moves to the 3rd of the D minor chord, which is just a regular F. So this further accentuates the descending passage from the A to the G to the F sharp to the F, which is through a lot of the verse. So once the intro is over, they come in with like a chordal outline guitar riff. So this is kind of like a tutti section in the music, which is a word which often means in classical music everybody is playing the same idea. And then as a development, after this tutti section has happened twice, he brings back the chord voicings from the intro and then develops it a little bit as well. What's really interesting in this development area is he brings back the A pedal tone from the intro too, and while the bass is still lower than that A pedal tone the whole time, it means we've got notes going through the entire spectrum. So we have chords built between the guitar and the bass really well. Nothing is really clashing. So the pre-chorus I always thought was a bit of a throwaway section, but upon closer inspection it actually changes to B minor, which is the relative minor of D major, which is the key that the chorus is in. So it transitions quite effectively from the pre-chorus to the chorus. It's got a really spicy little riff between the progressions as well, where at first the bass moves together with the guitar, but then another guitar comes in and comes down the progression in fourths with the first guitar, while the bass is underpinning the chords. At the end of this progression, it moves to an F sharp with a suspended fourth from time to time. This is the 5 chord of B minor, so it creates this tension in the key center which we're using. But then rather than resolving to the B minor, it decides to go to the D, which is the 1 chord of the chorus, which, as I stated earlier, is relative to the B minor. So the chorus, as I said earlier, moves into a key center of D. So it starts on a D, goes to an A, then to a G, and back to an A. And then we recapitulate the turnaround progression from the very start of the song to move back to A at the end of the chorus. How we know this chorus is in D is because A, it starts in D, which is often a good place to start. B, there's a 2-5-1 turnaround at the end of the chorus, so that's moving from the E minor to the A and back to the D. And the bass is quite repetitive with articulating the D throughout most of the chorus. The beginning of the turnaround is actually quite insidious, just because the chorus progression starts with a D to the A, and if you remember me saying earlier, the turnaround progression starts with a D to the A. So what they do here is it feels like you're about to repeat the chorus, but then by the time it gets to the C chord of the turnaround progression, they really emphasize it. It's turning around here. So it goes to the C, to the G, to the B flat, to the F chord, and then to the A chord. Both the F and the A are in first inversion, which is a little bit of a variation. But I just think that's a really, really clever way to put those two ideas together and manage to turn the song back into A for the guitar solo. So I'm just going to go over a few salient points for the guitar solo. I'm going to make another video where I look at it more in depth and add that up to my Facebook page if you want to check that out. Link will be in the description. So what makes this guitar solo really interesting is the juxtaposition between contemporary guitar techniques and targeting chord tones. So it sounds extremely musical, and that's what pricks the ear, you know? So the most obvious contemporary technique which Vito Bratta incorporates in this solo is tapping. So that is this. Another thing that he does quite frequently is tap harmonics, which you may not have heard of, so that's this. And he uses quite a few tap bends, which creates an extra little texture as well, so you can check that out here. Something quite prevalent in Vito's playing is frequent use of arpeggios. Not just in this solo, in quite a lot of his other solos, he uses a lot of sequencing. A very prominent classical music composition technique. Creates a lot of energy hearing the same rhythmic idea over and over. Obviously the second chorus uses a lot of the same ideas as the first chorus, but one of the things worth talking about here is the fact that it has a double turnaround at the end. So it uses the same insidious technique to turn around the first time, but by the time that turnaround's finished, it goes back to like a full turnaround where it really emphasizes the D to the A, and then we get the rest of the turnaround. So it's got this really uplifting feel towards the end there. This is really emphasized by the bass as well. You can hear it traveling up. It's worth mentioning in the outro, Vito Bratta uses a technique called rubato, which is really prevalent in classical music, especially like solo piano stuff. So this is flexing with rhythms, basically. So that's my really super deep dive onto White Lion's Wait. I hope you found this lesson extremely useful, in the words of Rick Graham. If you could like and subscribe to my channel, I would thoroughly appreciate that, and I will try to make some more of this content in the future.